politics of fear and hate are wrong. We love you and politics of
But America,
love are right.
we are not going back.
All right, y'all. Welcome to another episode of the Raise Red, Living Blue podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see we got a very special guest. Mr. Chig Martin is joining us. I'm your host, Jason Will. This is going to be, I think, a very entertaining episode. Chad, hey, tell us where the nickname Chig comes from.
Well, I had gotten a football scholarship to the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, and there was a local celebrity up there named Chig Martin, and he was always on the news and on the local news and things. And Chig really was a legend. And so my teammates just kept hearing about this Chig Martin on the news. And the next thing I know, they're coming to practice going, "Yeah, we saw you on the news, Chig Martin. And they're joking with me. And next thing I know, I'm being called Chig by coaches, by students in that university. So I went from Chad Martin to Chig Martin literally in about one day. But it's a fun name. You know, people, I'll be honest with you, depending on what kind of mood I'm in and what circumstance I'm in, I have a few little things where I fib about the name. Sometimes I talk about that I jumped into a little creek that was full of chiggers and things and got bit. And, so it depends on how many Pabst Blue Ribbons I've had,
Gotcha. That's what I was wondering. I was like, this must have been a camping adventure gone way wrong.
Yeah. But since I'm on such elegant podcasts like Raise Red, Living Blue, I figured I needed to tell the truth. So,
well, you are allowed to totally be yourself on this podcast. We don't have any rules against foul language or just getting or like unhinged on folks in Alabama that are griping your ass like Tommy Tuberville. Hey, but before we get into all that, I wanted you to just tell us a little bit about like who you are. I mean, you're a small business owner.
I take a lot of great pride in where I've come from in this life. I come from a beautiful mother and father that are deceased now, but my mother, she didn't finish 10th grade of high school in Red Level, Alabama. My dad finished high school, and they both got married and didn't have a nickel to their name, and both of them just worked their butts off through life. My mom had a beauty shop at one end of our house that she ran for 22 years. She ran it till her knees couldn't take it anymore because it's such a demanding job on a real busy person, bending and things like that. My dad was able to get his aircraft mechanic license and got a job down here at Fort Rucker, which is the aviation base in this area for the Army for helicopters. And while he was doing that, he noticed that Fort Rucker had a problem that they didn't have enough barracks for the soldiers. So we opened a small mobile home park here, and he worked that job, and he also ran his trailer park on the side, him and my mom both, and provided housing for helicopter pilots that were students here. And so I grew up in a very blue collar household, a lot of street smarts really in the house I came out of. Not a lot of PhDs, but a lot of doctors in real life. When I got out of high school, I'm a fairly sizable human being. I don't know if you know that, but I'm a fairly big guy. I'm 6'4", 6'7" with the hat. Anyway, I got a scholarship, and it was just a beautiful thing. It paid for my school, tuition, rooms, books, food, board. Amazing opportunity in my life. And I took advantage of it and still have contacts to this day from that experience. And when I got out of college, and I like telling people this because most political people come from elite status. When I got out of college, and I tell people I was lucky to start at the top. I sold Electrolux vacuum cleaners door to door for my first job. So I always tell people one thing about me, I learned how to understand the word no, not interested a lot very easily in life. And so I did that for a little while, finally got a job and a little bit better sales job at that time selling photocopiers, and this is what's hilarious, brand new technology, the fax machine. And yeah, and so I did that for a few years, and finally I got a really good job in national sales with a company out of Chicago. A lot of people know them, Granger. They advertise on about.
Yeah.
Here was the thing: when I worked for them, they wouldn't advertise, but now I can't even turn on the TV or radio and not hear them advertising. But I worked for them for several years, and I noticed an opportunity with the federal government that they had initiatives that they wanted to do business with small businesses. So I went out on a limb and started my own business, and it's been up and running 23 years. We sell all over the country. We supply the maintenance and the tooling and the safety products that where they need on military bases for supporting the maintenance and safety of aircraft there. And so my mom and dad passed away, and they left me to be in charge of their trailer park, which is 61 years old now, and still in business and still full of people. Well, I guess in 2018, I had been really searching. One of my goals in life, and I really like to consider myself an innovative businessman. I saw this opportunity for CBD and hemp, and it way before anybody, quite honestly, when I first started getting into it, I didn't know what it was all about. But what sold me was I actually tried some of this product. I have a lot of injuries from football, and I was just fascinated at how much like the pain cream helped swelling and things like that. And so I quietly stayed in the background. And the day that it became legal hemp with the Department of Agriculture's new farm bill, I immediately sprinted to be the first business license in the state of Alabama in the hemp business.
Wow.
And ran the thing up until January 1st of this year, when our state put everybody out of business, put an entire industry out of business. And so, yeah. And I have one beautiful daughter. She's 31. She runs the industrial maintenance company now. And I'm really a blessed man. I'm a simple man. I don't require a lot. I just need a fishing pole, guitar. I like to go deer hunting and turkey hunting. But besides that, that's about the only few things I like to do in life.
Well, I'm going to go off script here just for a minute because you brought up your daughter, and I noticed it looked like you guys had a very nice trip to New York City recently.
Yeah.
So I was just curious, like you went to this socialist, communist city. Did you feel nervous, scared? Were people upset? Is everybody freaking out because they've got this new socialist mayor?
Oh, gosh, no. Listen, New York's great, man. And this is, I think that was the third. We have a unique situation. My daughter and me are the only family we have because people dying off and things like that, natural things. And so every year at Christmas time, my daughter works so hard running our businesses. We take off for Christmas, but no, New York's great. And I always try to tell people in Alabama, because I get a lot of comments and they'll go, yeah, why would you go to that place? And I always go, well, if you like to have fun, you like to eat good food, you like to watch shows, you like to just see things you'll never see in your life. And what I try to tell people, and this is the amazing thing, in New York City, and I know tons of people up there, they don't sit around and talk about politics up there. Everybody thinks I think we talk about more about bad things about New York and politics, and they don't even focus on anything but a great lifestyle up there. It's a beautiful city, though. Yeah, I felt safe everywhere I went, just so you know.
Yeah, so there wasn't, like you didn't feel like you were in a city on the verge of anarchy or anything like that.
No, gosh, no. No, it's one of the safest, literally, especially in the areas people visit. There is literally police representation at every single intersection.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about how you feel like, because you've got so much experience in a lot of different aspects. I mean, I just can't imagine like the lessons you learned going door to door selling vacuums. But I want to hear about how you feel like that's prepared you, potentially running the state of Alabama. But gosh, I mean, did you fall and hit your head? Like, why did you decide to run? Like, what was the catalyst for all this?
Well, and Jason, the truth of the matter is I truly love people. I mean, that's everything I've ever done in my life. I was a I was the lead singer of a band for 7 years that played all over this country. And I did that. I love music, but I love people. I love interacting with people. And that's the truth of the matter. And so it's just a natural thing for me. I think I have good business experience. I think I have a good experience of working with people. And I try to tell people this. People will try to pin me into questions and say, will you work with this person? Or will you work, even if they're opposing? And I always try to answer people, if I'm going to be an effective leader here in Alabama, I have to work with people on behalf of our citizens. And so I want to get things done here in Alabama. I don't, in the real business world, you don't burn bridges, because you go south if that happens. And everything's not always hunky dory when you're trying to get things done. But the one thing, and I've taught my daughter this, though, and I think, Jason, you'll even know after we speak here today, I truly believe that people can handle the truth, even if it's not a popular opinion. You tell people the truth in a respectful tone, and whether they agree with you or not, they can usually absorb it and move on just because of the truthfulness. And that's what I always try to do. And it gets me in trouble sometimes, but 90% of the time, it does not get me in trouble.
That's good.
10% of it.
Well, you mentioned HB 445. I wanted to dive into that because, there's so much, I feel like, hypocrisy with this administration, and it's trickled down. I mean, Alabama's a rubber stamper for everything that's kind of coming out of DC. But I'm just like, so the first thing that strikes me about this bill that put your hemp business out of business is that my suspicion is that it was alcohol related. So alcohol sales are plummeting largely due to the fact that, I didn't even realize this, that it's a level 1 carcinogen. So alcohol is very, very bad for you. I mean, nobody knew it was good for you, but I don't think we knew it was like a leading cause of cancer. Up there was smoking. I mean, it's really like, you might as well, if you're going to drink, you might as well smoke.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So we have this alternative, as you mentioned, helps people with their pain, helps like soldiers with PTSD, but it helps people, get a little buzz and relax in a social situation where they don't have to drink. And we know like all these alcohol related deaths from car vehicles, domestic violence, gun violence, it's out of control. So like, how do you make sense of Republicans who are constantly preaching small government, shutting small businesses down across the state, and then probably doing it because of the alcohol lobby? What say you?
Well, and unfortunately, the big problem is even deeper than that, is that we have citizens that are not doing their homework and putting people into office like this, entitled people that are not, we have a lot of people serving in this state, not because of what they've done on their own. We have a lot of them serving because of who their grandfather is or what their dad or their mom has done. And so that's come back to bite us. And it's just like, yes, the Republicans are the ones that put this bill together to shut down HB 445. They get all the blame for that, and I'm going to give it to them. Now, here's where I do have a problem. When they put this bill up in front of the legislators, we had even Democrats that signed off on this and then later admitted did not fully read the bill and understand the impact that this was going to have here in the state. I've got just as big a problem with a legislator signing off on something with not knowing what they're signing. We've got big holes here in the state of Alabama, Jason, and that's where you're going to find things different with me. I mean, I'm not going to put my signature on something unless I understand it. And I can tell you this, one of the things running for governor, people will try to pull you into every little issue there is. I mean, literally hundreds of issues. And what I try to tell people right now at this point in Alabama, I'm focused on the things that help people with their quality of life. I mean, we've got problems right now. Let's just talk about the black belt. We've got problems where entire communities, big percentages, don't have any health care. We've got big parts of that area where kids are going to bed at night without the proper nutrition. We've got these same areas that don't have proper sewage and sanitation. And I want to work on things like, and that's just one thing we have going on here in Alabama, but like, I don't want to just talk about these things. I want to get into office and make some investments in the state, like, for instance, infrastructure into the Black Belt, roads, bridges, opportunities to build industrial parks, opportunities to build trade schools in those areas. We've got to develop these parts of the state like that. And as far as the rest of the state's concerned, the same things roll over. I mean, my daughter has dealing with these healthcare costs right now, doubling on herself and trying to figure it out. It's changed her entire budget, things like that. We've got to work on those things. We've got to stop building schools in other states while ours are dilapidating and get a lottery going here in Alabama. Whether you're against it, you're for it. The fact is that I live on a state line, one of the busiest state lines in the whole state, because I lead into the Florida Gulf Coast. That's where usually the ones crossing the Tennessee line, they're heading to Florida. I mean, Florida's, and I've seen entire little communities built down on the state line just to take Alabama money. And that, I mean, every single car in the parking lots are from Alabama. And so it just doesn't make any sense. And a lot of candidates, Jason, they talk about all these things. Well, I'm actually laying out things I want to do, like the Alabama Gaming and Healthcare Fund. I would like to have 4 designated areas across the state that we house full-fledged casino gambling, just like they would have in Las Vegas or Biloxi or wherever. I want these areas to not be invading our areas of population. I want them to be out where they have opportunities to grow for many years and not affect people. Well, I want these areas to have golf courses. I want them to have family-themed things, water parks, amusement parks. I want to have world-class entertainment. We have none of these things in Alabama right now, to be honest. And so I want the state to run these things. I want to employ Alabamians that'll make good wages, have health care, retirement benefits, and I want all of this money. I see it, and I got to tell you one thing. You won't hear me say I want to contract services out in the state, because that's where it gets muddy, and that's where it gets slick, and that's where it gets shady when there's contractors involved. But I want the state to be in control of this. I want all of this money to go into a fund for the state to help people with health care. If you're making $20,000 a year, you might get a little more out of this fund. And as your pay goes up, it'll gradually, the subsidies will go down. But and just so you know, this healthcare to me is not political. I always tell people, healthcare is just somebody trying to live and live healthy. It's not that's the only benefit, and it's a big benefit from it. Now, in saying that, the other things I want to do in this fund is I want part of this to be set to go to helping rural hospitals in the state stay afloat. Also, basic healthcare clinics in small communities. But one of the key things that we always haven't figured out a way to do anything is I want some of this money as well to go to creating a mental health program in the state that's sustained. We have basically our mental health program in the state right now requires of each county having about a 2,500 square foot red brick building somewhere in your county. And that's our healthcare services. And I've spoken to sheriffs. They send people to these that have mental health problems. By the end of the day, they're back out on the streets.
Hey, fellow Blue Dots, we would love for you to connect with us on social media. We're on Instagram and TikTok at Raised Red Living Blue. Okay, back to the episode.
So I want to get back to the hemp industry real quick, and we'll close it out. But I'm just curious. I've read, listened, heard some scuttlebutt about, like the alcohol industry
Yeah.
bringing this back, like bringing hemp drinks back and hemp products back under their brands, under their umbrellas. So it seems like do you think that's what's going to happen, is that we will see the resurgence of this?
Well, the alcohol, tobacco, and pharmaceutical spent an estimated $850 million lobbying just last year. And I don't know if you know this or not, Jason, you may know it, but when we reopened the government about a month and a half ago, they slipped a bill in there that shut the hemp industry down in 365 days. And most people, the average citizens, don't even realize they've done that. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, it's that's who bought and paid. Mitch McConnell, I mean, took millions and millions of dollars from these lobbyists I was talking about. So the government is fighting against a natural green leafy product. It just doesn't make sense.
That has so many benefits.
Oh yeah.
I mean, but so many benefits that we haven't realized because we keep suppressing it because of, like what you mentioned, the alcohol lobby. But, we're going to see Budweiser coming out with a Delta 8 drink, and then it's going to be fine, right? As long as it's sold in, grocery stores or liquor stores or wherever. Have you talked to any of your, fellow like hemp small business owners? I mean, you were lucky because you had something to fall back on, several things to fall back on.
Yeah.
But this is like their bread and butter. What about the people, like this is the only business they're in? What is
Yeah, I mean,
some of these folks?
there is nobody in the state that has visited more hemp stores. Matter of fact, I've probably got somewhere around 80 to 100 pictures on my campaign page of me being in hemp stores all over the state. Now there are some internal battles within unfortunately in this day and time, and we see this. We even see this, for instance, I'll give you an example in hemp stores. Some people are about attention. Who's getting the attention? I don't really care about that. I want the industry to be okay. And so there's I've been accused of writing the HB 445 bill. I've been accused of owning the biggest CBD and hemp drink company in Alabama, and that's why I wrote I don't know. I'm a small one-person shop in Dothan, Alabama.
Well, I've seen people categorize you as like a drug dealer or something.
Oh yeah. I have never held a public office, but if you were to look at some of the things that are said about me, they're so nasty, and we talk about it all the time. And it's because, quite honestly, we're upsetting the establishment, and that's the way they try to handle those type of things. But I can tell you this, anybody that knows me, people that work me, they'll tell you nobody will work harder with you. And by the way, when it comes to the things they're saying, I always try to tell people, I was the first in that business. Why do I want to kill an industry that I'm in? It doesn't even make sense. I mean, I'm in the industry.
Yeah, none of it makes sense. I mean, what a time to be alive. It's such a wild time.
But hey, something else I wanted to mention?
Sure.
It reminds me a lot of what's going on. Like for instance, and we're speaking about things in the Democratic Party today. Well, one of the problems right now that the Democratic Party is having is they have their county official parties, I'm just throwing out a county, the Coffee County Democratic Party. Well, what's happening now in some of these counties, other Democratic groups are open because they're all against each other, and they're all worried about who's going to get the credit and this and that. And somehow we found ourselves working against each other when that's the last thing we need to be doing. You've kept up with my campaign. My base is a different type of voter in Alabama.
They're dedicated, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, they're open-minded. I mean, we have Democrats, we have crossover Republicans, we have independents, and what I've tried to get out to the Democratic Party is for us to actually win, we have to do that. We don't have the numbers if you just sit back and wait for the Democratic establishment to vote. I mean, we just don't have, we've got to be aggressive. We've got to have strategies that are inclusive. And I mean, because if we just run and keep going with the idea we're not going to win, we're just not going to ever get anything done. And so go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I feel like this is a fair statement. If all Alabamians voted in support of their own interests, that Alabama would be a blue state. We've got people voting against their interests, especially women. I feel like we've got an African American population and probably a good bit of Caucasian Democrats and independents who just feel like there's no point. I've got so many friends that just did not vote in the last presidential election. They just didn't see the point, and they haven't voted in the last several presidential elections because my vote doesn't count. I mean, it's a red state. So
we had a big election over in Tuscaloosa about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and 7% of registered voters showed up to vote and elect the new representative. It was a special election, and it was just, it was in Tuscaloosa, and I think the vote total for both candidates was just a little over 2,000 people.
That's crazy. I think that just shows you just how disillusioned people are and how they're frustrated with the candidates, the choices they have. But I'm going to tell you, I've talked to a lot of Democratic candidates, and there is a stacked bench of talent, of people who just tell it like it is and know what's good for the state. But I'm curious, these people you're talking to, these Democrats, Republicans, and independents, and your personal frustrations with the present leadership under Kay Ivey. It's like, surely she's heard that people, because you mentioned all the issues in the Black Belt, the mortality rate for pregnant women. I mean, it's like most Alabamians reading at a 6th grade level. It's crazy. But in Lowndes County, the sewage issues, I'm like, why wouldn't she go, I'm going to fix that?
Yeah. She, unfortunately, a lot of people don't know this, but a kid that's about to turn 11 years old has never seen but one governor in their life here in Alabama. That's how long. Yeah, somebody that was born and about to turn 11 has seen one governor in the state. And you think about it, that's pretty crazy, but she has done nothing. I almost say this in a way that I feel bad. She's not physically able to do much. I mean, if you haven't noticed.
Well, that's what I've heard. I mean, I've heard, a lot of, water cooler talk about the fact that, she is basically just a figurehead, that, she's not running the state. Somebody else, she's not mentally capable due to her age to run this state, that it's being run for her.
I got really mad. I went to an event that Kay Ivey was at, and it was raining a little bit that day. And this is really not anything important, but it just didn't set well with me. But when she arrived, she got out of the car, and, they were lifting her arms, and I'm okay with all that. But the part I didn't like is she had 2 state employees holding her umbrellas over her head for her. And I know that sounds minute, but here's the thing. There's teachers out there that are in our school system that are state employees. At the end of the day, Kay Ivey's a state employee. Nobody holds an umbrella over their head when they have to walk to their car to leave for school for the day. And the reason I say this is kind of the mindset that government has turned into. I'm the queen now. Treat me like a queen. Hold this umbrella for me. And we've got away from our blue collar working roots of Alabama. And that's what you're going to listen. If I'm elected governor, you're going to see me there in Hoover at a football game on a Friday night. You might see me there 6 months later at a band competition. You might see me come visit a church. I am going to get out across the state. I'm going to visit people. I'm going to be open to everybody. That's the whole key. And one of the things I've talked to you a little about, like social issues and stuff. One of the toughest things is people will come at me and say, well, what are you going to do for this group of Alabamians? Well, I try to explain this when my idea of government is that you, Jason, or this person over here in Mobile, everybody's entitled to the same representation and fairness and equality of an elected official. When you start saying, I'm going to do this for you, that is special interest. You see, it's now in saying all that, I understand that different groups and things like this in the state have different things that they have to deal with. And I have a kind, compassionate heart, and I want to try to do whatever I can. Every Alabamian deserves to be treated with respect, to feel safe and protected around this state, and they deserve to live their life and live it freely. And that's what I'm going to promote here in Alabama. I want you to enjoy your life in Alabama, and I want to make sure that, like I said, you're protected, you have opportunity, all of those things.
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent point that people of especially white privilege miss out on, is that, I had one lady comment on a social post I made several months ago, but she was from Baldwin County, and she's like, what are you talking? Because I was listing all the areas where like Alabama was coming up last, education, healthcare,
Yeah.
all these things. And she was like, what are you talking about? She was basically accusing me of putting out misleading information, because she's like, Baldwin County is booming. Life is great here. And I'm like, yeah, well, you need to go to places in the Black Belt, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And there's people that are not having such a great time. And,
Oh, yeah.
That's a great transition into Tuberville, because he's clearly made it clear that he is not going to be the governor of all people. But before we start, I really want you to hammer this Tuberville and, just go completely gloves off. But before we get to Tuberville, I wanted to ask you, because Kay Ivey recently proposed a increase in teacher pay.
Yeah.
2%.
Okay.
A 2% raise. And she's gotten some heat on that is not nearly enough.
No, it's not enough. Yeah. Hey, trust me, I've had enough teachers in my ears over the last 4 or 5 months. I don't even know. All I know is they are not paid nearly what other teachers are paid in other states,
Yeah. So it seems like there's these little breadcrumbs, initiatives and things that she's starting. But, it seems to me like it's too little too late. But these teachers, it's insane. I don't know, like I used to teach school. I was an ESE teacher, so I was a special ed teacher. And these kids still feared and respected adults. Like when I had to go sub for the teachers in like the teenage, like I would say anywhere from like 6th to 8th grade, these preteens and, early teenagers, it was a nightmare. Like these kids are out of control. But the bigger problem I think is they're underpaid for a job that, is like, it's a calling. Like nobody wants to do it, but they feel. Do you talk to teachers that fear for their lives? I mean, in terms of these school shootings?
The number one thing that teachers have told me at our events out across the state is, besides their pay and leading into other things, the pay is always number one. But the other things that they tell me, the biggest problem they have is keeping control of their classroom. They said because of this modern day technology with cameras in everyone's hands, and that teachers are in fear of public scrutiny for just trying to keep structure in their classroom. Then they say that it feeds onto the principal's office and the vice principals. They're scared to do anything to maintain order in the school in fear of getting filmed or this. And to me, we've got to change that mentality. I'll just tell you this. It doesn't matter how good a curriculum you have set. Doesn't matter how beautiful the school is. If you don't have order in the classroom, it affects the entire classroom's opportunity to learn. And this is what the teachers tell me. They said, it is a shame that I typically have 1 to 2 students that disrupts the learning of the entire classroom. And I cannot get anything done to get these students, doing like they're supposed to.
Yeah, it's
Like,
really sad.
yeah.
All right, so let's drop the hammer on Tuberville. What do you feel like are the biggest differences between policy differences between you and the coach?
Well, the biggest thing, and this is not policy, that you're going to see between me and Senator Tuberville is the fact that I am not trying to divide our state. Okay, I am not trying to talk bad about other people that aren't like me in this state and cause friction and chaos. And unfortunately, in this modern day age, that's what, feeding red meat to this base is what he does every single day.
Yeah.
Now, where I'm disappointed that the base is taking this red meat. That's equally as disappointing. And so you're going to see a different type of governance right there. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care how you live your life. I want to work with you here in the state of Alabama. And it's going to start. And one of the biggest differences, we're kind of going all over the place here, but I have made a promise and a commitment to the citizens of Alabama that the one thing you will see right out of the get-go is you're going to see a cabinet standing with me in the picture that's going to be the first cabinet you've ever seen here in Alabama that is diverse. You're going to see colors of people. You're going to see men. You're going to see women. You're going to see people from different lifestyles. We are going to be represented in a cabinet with me in the state. And guess what? It's not going to be a cabinet that their granddaddy was a judge in this county. It's going to be the guy that works down the street from you in Hoover at the Home Depot behind the cash register. It's going to be working out. It's going to be the nurse in Enterprise, Alabama, the dental assistant in Arab, Alabama. Because in order to understand our citizens, we need people in government that actually know the plight they're going through here in this state.
100 was such a great point.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. The lack of representation is wild.
It amounts to a bunch of rich white men is what in our representation.
And that's who they're serving, right? The
Yeah.
wealthy, affluent population of the state.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what's happened. That's what's been happening,
Yeah.
from the Love Gov, forward and reverse, it's nonstop serving a very small minority of the state. And that's why it's so important, I think, for people who have been disillusioned by the political process in Alabama for so many years, this chokehold that the Republican majority has had on the state is, how can you blame them? But at the same time, we've just got to motivate these people to get out and vote. And we see the Republicans making it as difficult as possible for people to get out and vote. I mean, when I was a kid, I meant to ask you if you had a raised red, living blue story, like if you grew up in a staunchly Republican household.
My dad was a Republican.
Well, my stepdad, Steve McMillan, served in the state house as a Republican for almost 4 decades. And, I was around, I went with him to a lot of campaign events and just heard a lot of people talking and joking about, buses going into the Democrats sending buses into the Black Belt to bus these people to the polls and just laughing about that and, disparagingly. But, I was too young to understand that these people didn't have cars.
Yeah.
They didn't have a way to get to their voting station. So it's crazy. But Tuberville, in my opinion, I want to hear your opinion, his record in the Senate is not a selling point for him to be elected as our next governor.
No, he's not done anything. And, the only things he's been noted for are bad things like holding up military promotions. And I mean, if you really think about this, Jason, and I know it gets joked about a lot, but if you really think about this, I mean, a good portion of the state is goo-goo and gaga over a man like Tommy Tuberville that when asked to name the 3 branches of government. Now, here's the kicker. He's part of one of those branches serving. And I mean, is that the intelligence level we want representing our people here in the state? I
Well,
mean, it's simple.
doesn't that scare the shit out of you, though? I mean,
Yeah.
because AJ
Yeah.
McCarron, before he dropped out of the race to become a football coach, was the leading candidate for lieutenant governor, and he'd never even voted.
I watched Tommy Tuberville, and you remember when the whole IVF thing was happening in Alabama, in vitro fertilization? Well,
Yeah.
they interviewed Tuberville, and I literally had to scratch my head. It was like I was confused. They asked him about IVF, and he said, I'm against IVF because I think Alabama families should have the opportunity to grow if they want to grow their family. And I'm going, what?
What?
I know. Did you see that?
I mean, I feel like I'd scratch my head and say, what, every time he's
Yeah.
on TV?
I know it was almost like a brain trick, I'm like, did he just say he wants Alabama families to have the opportunity to grow, but he's against IVF,
It's crazy. Do you feel like Montgomery is a war zone?
I think Montgomery is a town like a lot of capital cities in the U.S. I don't know what it is, but when you go to a lot of capital cities in Florida and Tallahassee, there's work that needs to be done. I will tell you this. One of the stops I'm making today is I'm stopping in the west side of Montgomery. I go to a place there called the Purple House. A gentleman there that's worked with me through this campaign, they said, Chad will never come to the Purple House. This is in the west side of Montgomery, and this will make about my 7th trip there today. And it's because we've got to give representation to folks that are in some of these marginalized communities here in Alabama, and they need work, they need development, and that's why I'm trying to listen and learn. But yeah, we need work in Montgomery for sure, no doubt about it.
But do you want to see, are you concerned that we may see what's happening like in Minneapolis and Montgomery, because he wants a surge of National Guard troops on the streets. He wants to militarize the streets in Montgomery.
Well, now I want you to know when I was speaking just then, that was of economic development.
Yes.
I wasn't speaking on because I'm totally against that. I think Alabama, we can handle our own business here in the state. I don't want the federal government sending National Guard troops in. I don't want them sending military in. I don't want them sending ICE in. I live in a rural community here in Alabama, where I live here in Enterprise, Alabama. I don't know if you know this. We've got a statue in the middle of town called the Boll Weevil Monument.
Yeah.
And we have the Boll Weevil Monument. A lot of people don't know the story, but the Boll Weevil come in here in the 1930s and killed all the cotton crops. It was all cotton here. Well, a local farmer here in Enterprise decided a few years later to try to grow peanuts on his farm. And boy, did they take off. They had no idea they could grow peanuts like they can grow them down here because it's the coastal plains region. The soil's perfect for the peanut. Well, now you got everybody growing peanuts. You got a peanut oil mill here in Enterprise, a peanut butter factory. I will tell you this, when they're cooking peanuts over there at that factory, you've never smelled a town that smells any better than Enterprise. You know how nuts cooking smells. It's a beautiful smell. Yeah. And so, especially when they start adding the sugar and things like for the peanut butter, it's just, but yeah. So my point of this whole story is this town would not function without the immigrants here in this town right now. And they are some of the finest citizens and people that I know in this community. I've told people this story before. One time I was trying to, and I live by myself, I was trying to load something in the back of my truck, a piece of furniture. I was taking it to my daughter to give it to her, and I couldn't just get it lifted up by myself over the tailgate. And I saw one of the guys that I grew up with out here kind of coming down the road. And I noticed as he got to me, he turned his head like he was looking the other way, like he didn't see me. And I thought, what? And you know what? About 30 seconds later, I had 2 Hispanic gentlemen that did not know me stop and said, hey, sir, can we help you? Help me set the furniture up in the truck. And I said, you know what? That's the kind of people these folks are right here. They're good neighbors. They're good people. They're proud. I met this immigrant lady, and I've known her for years, and I hadn't seen her in a while. And she told me that when I saw her, she said, "You're not going to believe this." I said, "What?" She said, "My daughter is going to the University of Alabama," and she cried.
Mm,
She was so happy. I mean, she never had that opportunity, but her daughter did. You know what I mean? And
love
it's
it.
a beautiful, hardworking people. Man, you won't ever see their little kids more than 5 feet from them. They love their families. They protect their families. They help people. We had a situation here where a lady out near where I lived, an immigrant, she had 2 or 3 kids, I can't remember, and they were teenagers. Well, actually, there was only 2 left, but because this lady got in a horrible car wreck, somebody ran a red light over in Dothan and it killed her. And man, so here's her 2 kids left with no mom, no dad, no nothing. And I watched this immigrant community, the adults start trading off to go sit with those kids, and they still do it to this day. They have like shifts, and they go cook breakfast, they go cook lunch. One stays overnight this night, and they have a community has raised that lady's remaining 2 children. And so that's the kind of people they are. And I don't appreciate the people that jump on this Tommy Tuberville type crap and talk bad about people, because I'll tell you right now, whether I don't know, I don't care what your religious belief is, but most people claim to be Christian in the state of Alabama. That's a
Yeah.
fact. And I try to tell them Christianity and does not end at the border. Guess what? It continue. If you're a Christian, it extends past the border. You care about humanity. You care about people, and that's where we've gotten lost here in this country. And it's a country of clickbait now.
What are the peanut farmers in your community? How are they being affected by these immigration laws and this new
Well,
enforcement?
it's kind of funny because they're pretty much laying off of them in these farming communities, because I think the government knows it's just going to shut down. It's going to bottleneck the industry so bad that, let's face it, their biggest donors come from these huge farming national operations, and the sales of their products overseas, and they don't want to shut that down, so they're picking and choosing, like places like Minneapolis, or they've
Blue states.
not come into the farming communities too bad, but like I said, there again, it's going to cost them money if they do. So
Yeah, but they're going after the farmers or farm workers in California big time,
because it's a blue state, obviously.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Hey, fellow Blue Dots, don't forget you can find all of our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button, and we would love a review. Okay, now back to the episode.
All right, so you are in the neck of the woods of one of the prisons, at least one of the prisons that was featured in the Alabama Solution documentary. Is that correct?
Yeah, matter of fact, I have a little hunting cabin that I've had since 1994, and I don't know which prison you're talking about, but it's about 2 miles from Easterling Prison in Clio.
I'm not sure if that's where Robert Earl Council is.
Yeah.
Is that where he is?
Easterling was the very first scene in the documentary where he was. That's in Clio, Alabama. Yeah, and Robert's only from about a mile from where I'm doing this interview from you right now. I grew up with all his family and played football with one of his brothers and things like that. So,
well, it's wild to me. I mean, we had Steve Marshall in the documentary saying that he wholeheartedly believes that the prison system in Alabama is solid, and it's, that these atrocities that we saw with our own eyes. I mean, this is what really chaps my ass, is that they're telling us not to believe our eyes. Like, I mean, you're telling us not to believe what we can actually see and comprehend, which is crazy. But we haven't seen Kay Ivey. I haven't seen Tommy Tuberville. You would think that they would be so mortified by what the nation and the world saw that they would come out and have some pretty stern remarks and be very proactive on reform. But instead, it seems like their attitude is, it ain't broke, and we're building more. We're building more prisons.
Well, one of the things, and a lot of people that know me well know this, but I unfortunately am one of the people that received a phone call about 8:30 one night that my brother had died in prison.
Oh no!
So yeah, it's very personal to me. And now he died because of health related issues, but the fact is he still died while incarcerated. I mean, he was, and so yeah. Here's the thing. Here's what's happened and ruined the prison system in Alabama. Whenever we stopped with our control as a state of the prisons and started contracting services out, that's where the money exchanges started between politicians and elected officials and things like that. And that's where it got slimy right there. And so the first thing I want to do is I want the state to be in control of our prison system where we can have internal accountability. We don't have that through contractors. The biggest problems I have in the prison right now, just to name a few, one of the things I don't like is the program where they're letting the prisoners go out and work in the general public and work in, McDonald's or wherever it may be. And I do understand the concept. The prisoner earns some money. The state gets some of that money. I kind of get that because, to be honest with you, if I was a prisoner, I would take that deal just to get out.
Oh, yeah.
And just to be out in the public all day. Well, here's the part I don't like of that. Now, this same prisoner is coming up for parole and getting denied parole, although he's working daily in the public as a trusted inmate, and he's being denied parole because the state wants to keep that hourly pay flow coming through. And that's not a reason to keep somebody in prison. Okay. And so the things we've got to fix there, we've got to get fair and equal pardon and parole boards here in the state of Alabama. They give people, if they've done their time and they've done everything right and it's their time to get an opportunity to get out, let's get them out. But now things I see where we could improve the system, prison system, I would just love to put a trade system within the prisons where, obviously every inmate can't be part of a program like this, because if they're deadly murderers or rapists or whatever, they probably aren't going to get this. They're not going to get the same benefits but if you've got a guy that's in there for, he was a drug addict or an alcoholic in a car crash, whatever it may be.
A minor drug offense. There's so many with minor drug offenses.
Let's give these people an opportunity to learn a trade. We could set up trade programs, even if they're not big like a trade school, but have classrooms full of trade with the goal of when this person gets released, they might leave there with a license in that trade and ready to go to work and ready to help their family as soon as they get out. Not leaving these people walking out going, what do I do now? I mean, that's what reform is about, is trying to learn something from a stop in prison, trying to leave out of there a better person than you came in there.
Well, what ultimately would send that prisoner back to prison when they get paroled is very similar to what got them there in the first place.
Yeah.
You talked about healthcare and the fact that rural healthcare in our state sucks. We've got rising healthcare costs where people are going to be priced out of procedures. We have all this issue right now with the SNAP benefit. So if you're sick or your mom's sick and you can't afford insurance and she needs a surgery, you're probably motivated to steal or sell drugs, rob somebody or sell drugs. If you're hungry and you don't have money to buy food, you're going to steal it.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, the right seems to be this moral high ground, common sense party. And yet I see it as the exact opposite. They don't understand that if, you talked about healthcare being not a political issue, being really like a human right. If we started changing our mindset around these things and started treating people as equals, having governors who are the governors for all people in the state, who are doing all, producing, creating all these programs to lift people up, gosh, we'd see this crime rate go down. But the point you brought up with the privatization is that it's profit over people. And
Yeah.
this is the problem we have. And nobody cares as long as the affluent communities have low crime, good schools, and those people can afford their health care and everything's fine with them. It's basically this huge wealth gap where we're not going to have any middle. We're just going to have, the extremely wealthy and the extremely poor.
You were talking about healthcare, and there's one thing that I've come up with, and because I've tried to think of a way to say this for months, and about a week ago I was thinking about it. I was thinking, in an advanced society, basic healthcare should be a fundamental right.
Yes.
Been trying for months to put it into words, and that's what I came up with, and that's the way I feel. So, but yeah, you're right.
Especially the richest nation in the world. I mean,
Yeah.
we shouldn't have these problems that we have. People here will hear you say like state-run prisons, and they'll say, no, we want the state doing as little as possible. We want smaller government. We want, less regulation, all these things. But I think it's proven that like when society does not have any guardrails, or the business community, the free market doesn't have any guardrails, that people just take advantage. There's so much fraud and corruption. I mean, that's the problem with the Alabama prison system. I think, you hear people say it all the time, follow the money.
Well, I was going to tell you something about what you were saying a minute ago, but here's the problem right now with some Republican voters in the state. And listen, I'm not going to slam Republicans as a whole, honestly, because I've got a lot of them that are going to help me try to win this election, and I need their vote. And then that's just I told you, I just speak the truth. But
100.
Here's the thing about a lot of Republicans that I know personally that disappointed me. I know these people to be good people that have been people that will help people throughout their life, but they've got caught up in this modern day era of hate and dissension. And I've tried to tell them, you've got to bring yourself back and look and ask yourself, and it's the basic statement: what's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong. And we've got to wait from those basic theories in life. Just because someone in power is trying to lead you down this horrible road, don't let them do that. I mean, you're better than that,
Yes. Great point.
Yeah.
I was hoping that you could sum up in one sentence why Alabamians should vote for you as their next governor.
Well, the reason you should vote for me right here in Alabama is my business life has been cut and molded right here in Alabama, from working in convenience stores when I was a teenager to loading furniture, just beating the streets as a salesman my whole life in this state. I went to Alabama public schools my whole life. I'm for the people. I take zero special interest money. I do this at a disadvantage where I can represent the people fairly and accurately. And that's why I do it at this disadvantage. But I'm a person that I don't run and hide from citizens, as you've seen today. Jason, I had no idea what you were going to talk about today, and I didn't care because we were going to talk about it. And I've made a promise that if I'm elected governor here in Alabama, and this is something that frustrated me during HB 445, we will have as many people as it takes to answer the phone lines there at the governor's office, because citizens deserve to get to the governor's office if they want to speak to their representation. I can't guarantee you that you're going to get to speak to the governor about a dog that's going under your fence and getting on your property or things like that. But you will have an opportunity to speak to somebody from the governor's office. I love the people of the state of Alabama. This is my last time ever running too. So that just so you know that. And I try to tell people that, because if you've ever had any inkling of voting for me, now would be the time.
Yeah.
I am turning into a professional brim fisherman after this. And so, yeah, I love our people, man. And I think I could do a good job. My business career is a proven one. I mean, how many other candidates will you talk to that was the first in an industry in the state of Alabama? My business career speaks for itself. I mean, I know I could do a good job here in Alabama. And the main thing is I'm going in representing all equally and fairly. When I'm elected, I don't care what your political background is. You're going to get fairness and equity from me as a governor.
Love that. Well, I feel like there's this double standard, right? On one hand, you've got AJ McCarron, who has zero political experience, zero political interest. What did he vote? Has he voted one time his whole life? I can't remember if he's voted.
I thought he registered.
Yeah, he just registered. He hadn't voted.
Yeah.
He just registered. So they won't ask any questions of him, right? They won't say, "Hey, what are your qualifications?"
He played the foosball.
But they'll sure as shit do it with you and go, "Well, Chad, you have no political experience. What is your business experience? How is that going to lend itself to you being a good governor?" And I don't know what your response is going to be to this question, but what I have gathered from this interview is that you give a shit.
Yeah. I do. I do. Listen, I wouldn't take the stuff that I could drop out and not have to be beat down all day long by people across the state. And if I didn't give a shit, honestly.
Yeah.
I take a lot of abuse. And I will tell you this. The one thing my daughter and I talked about, I said, the good thing that's come about this is now you can pretty much say anything you want about me and it goes out one ear. I've been used to getting slammed so hard now.
Your skin's thick now, huh?
Yeah. So, and I want you to know, I appreciate what you're doing here in the state because you've got certain media organizations in the state that try to push only one narrative. And people like you're giving me a chance, but you give other candidates a chance. Even if they don't do your podcast, you still speak of other candidates. And I mean, and I am all for that, man. I love that. And then you've got some that are trying to push a narrative. Like it's either this way or the highway. And one of the things that just drives me nuts is people will say, he's trying to take votes away from this person. And I'm like, it's the primary. This is where our citizens decide who they want. You're not taking votes from anybody.
Right.
You know? Yeah, whoever gets the most votes is nobody's taking votes from anybody in a primary. That's what primary means. You know?
Well, this last question could be pretty deep. It's going to be interesting to hear how you answer it. But on a very personal note, what's a part of Alabama, a tradition, a place, a memory that reminds you or just reinforces within you that Alabama is a state worth fighting for?
I will tell you this. I think Huntsville's a really impressive city here in the state of Alabama. I mean, it's kind of amazing for me to go up there and we were talking about, I was talking about some of the things in New York and restaurants and things like that. Well, I kind of saw a glimpse of a little of that in Huntsville. I mean, like a little diversity, you know, and I think that's great for a city. I mean, I see arts and entertainment. See, that's something that's so important to me that other governors don't talk about. I think a society that thrives has arts and entertainment for their people. I think it's good for the soul. I think it is good for the thought process of people. I just think and so that's something that's really important to me here in the state of Alabama, is having things like that throughout the state. I'll tell you this, we've got the foundation to be a great state. We've got footage on the Gulf of Mexico. We've got the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains in North Alabama. We've got everything in between. We just don't have leadership. Okay. And that's what I feel like I can offer. And here's the thing. I mean, just like with you here today. I don't duck and dodge and dip like the dodgeball movie, however that is. You have to address things head on. You have to put good people around you, especially at the governor's office. You have to put people that are sensible, working class people, and you have to come up with solutions that work for Alabamians. And that's what I plan to do.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, nobody questions like Dr. Oz or Dr. Phil. I mean, like all these people getting into politics on the right side, but on the left, like if you're not, you know, a career politician with a poli sci major and, you know, I mean, have grown up, born and bred with politics and elections and all these things and served, worked your way up the totem pole in the political arena, then you're not qualified. And it's just total BS.
Well, it's just like this. I mean, just like with Tuberville. I mean, do you want a guy that knows how to arrange people to do an onside kick, or do you want an innovative businessman like me to run your state?
Gosh, I've got so many memories of him after Auburn and just what a disaster his coaching career was after that. And, you know, flipping students to Bird and all that stuff. Man, the short attention span and memory of our electorate is troubling.
To think that our people are okay with a person that lives in Florida representing.
Oh my gosh, we totally didn't cover that. Let's do that real quick, because you have really a bird's eye view.
Oh yeah,
of this man's true residency.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. That Santa Rosa Beach is probably about an hour from me right now. So yeah, I live on the state line down here in Alabama, but if I continued on across the state line, he lives about 45 minutes south of the state line. So yeah, it's a joke. It's just a joke. I mean, it should be an insult to Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Independents, that somebody that lives in another state has the audacity to try to run for governor of our state.
I don't get it. I don't get, where's the scrutiny? Where's the disqualification? It just blows my mind. I'm really hoping as we get deeper into this election cycle that, we need to see him on a debate stage answering that question.
Jason, I want to tell you right here on your show, because I like to make this known. Chig Martin is open for debate against any candidate in the state of Alabama, whether it be Republican, Democrat, and I'll even tell you what I will do. I will let whoever set the date, the time, the venue, and let them pick the moderators. And I still will accept and debate anyone in this state. I think the citizens deserve it. And listen, I may get the floor wiped with myself, but I feel like I'm doing the right thing for the Alabama citizen to say, hey, I'm willing to do it. Let's go for it. Let's don't have just a Democratic debate. Let's just put everybody in a room and let's go. Let the citizens ask the questions. Have a microphone and say, okay, this citizen, it's your turn to ask a question to a candidate. Let's have it real, man.
Yeah, but the reality right now is we've got Republicans who can't and won't do town halls because of the scrutiny of the voters, and they'll label that scrutiny as paid protesters. It's just all bullshit. I wonder, since Tuberville doesn't think for himself, he lets Donald Trump think for him. Be interesting to see if he even agrees to one debate, because Trump was like, he agreed to that one debate with Kamala and got his ass whipped and was like, that's it, I'm not debating her again. We'll see if he mans up and takes the stage, because I would love to see that. Debates are what I am really looking forward to. Last question. If you win, will there be a chance for us to see you perform live? Will you sing a song? Will you get your guitar out?
Absolutely. Listen, if I win, not only will I sing a song, but I'm going to have some of the best Alabama musicians in the state come and play for me. And there's going to be an age range of those. I want to get an up and newcomer, Jess Murphy. Do you know her?
Yes. Oh my gosh. This sounds like.
I want to have Jess Murphy. I want to have the band Shenandoah out of Tuscumbia, Alabama. And those are the first two so far. So yeah, I want to have some Alabama performers. So, and different ranges of people.
Gosh, I love it. Well, I thank you so much for taking the time to
Me
do
too,
this. I know
man.
you're in a super busy week of
Oh
campaigning.
yeah, I am in a busy week. Yeah, I'll be and you know, a lot of people don't know this. I want to tell you something about just before we get off. I got a campaign team that treats this like their job, like a 40-hour a week job. They get zero pay. They pay their own gas to every event. If they have to stay, they pay for a room if they need it. I mean, they do it for the citizens of Alabama, volunteering out of the kindness of their heart. And man, it has been unbelievable to watch working class Alabama citizens come together. And that's the reason we're competing now. We don't have the money, but we got the people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We're fighting special interest money with just hardworking people, and it's just an amazing team, man. And I'm so proud. I am so honored that these people. But the other thing I was getting at is we have put up across the state 440 signs over the last. And when I leave here today, I'm not only a candidate for governor. One of the things I've been tasked with by my campaign manager is I'll be putting signs out along the way in Troy and Montgomery, people that are requesting these. So I'm a candidate that does it all. I'm not too proud to do whatever it takes to advance this campaign. So by the end of the day, I think it's going to be what people don't understand about putting out signs. Like I got to put out, I think, 22 signs today. Well, when I stick one out in somebody's yard, man, the next one may be 30 or 40 minutes away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not,
hell
it's
yeah.
not like they're next door to each other. Yeah. And
Right.
so but we have so many signs out across the state, and we're so proud of that because we've been working. They take off on the weekends, and we all take a picture. We don't take a picture of the people's house, but we always take a picture of the sign. And we've got this montage of just hundreds of pictures, and it's amazing. It's just an amazing to watch. I say it every now and then, but it's nice to watch working class citizens that are volunteering kick the ass of these $1 million public relations firms.
Well, I think you're onto something with a really powerful campaign slogan about not having the money but having the people.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there's some work that can be done behind the scenes among your staff about like we're not about like special interest money. We're about the interest of the people of Alabama.
Yeah.
There's something to that. So wow. I can't wait to meet you in person. I hope some of your staff takes pictures of you installing these signs and sends it to me because I'll post it on the page.
Okay.
I love to see a candidate roll their sleeves up. But
Yeah.
Chad,
That's where I'm in my sweatsuit because I'm going to be putting out signs today.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Chad, Chig Martin, thank you so much for joining us on the Raised Red Living Blue podcast. I can't wait to meet up with you somewhere on the campaign trail in the coming weeks and months, but I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Hey, man, you do a good job, man. Seriously, I'm grateful for what you do for the state. What you do is super important for the state of Alabama, and I really thank you for doing it. Yeah, thank you so much, man. And listen, we'd love to have your support. We really would.
Well, I'm looking forward to meeting up with you on the trail and hopefully getting to see you debate Tommy Tuberville. That's going to be some
Make it happen.
TV right there.
Keep the pressure on.
I will. Thank you so much. I look forward to our next conversation.
Yeah, take care, buddy.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Take care. Bye-bye.